HR Basics is a series of short lessons designed to highlight what you need to know about a particular human resource management topic. In today's HR Basics, we explore selection, describing in detail the typical process used by organizations to hire employees. Selection is the systematic process of hiring the right person for the right job at the right time. The typical selection process, or what some might call the hiring process, is a fluid and flexible model for how organizations attract, vet, and ultimately select a new employee. While the selection process might look somewhat different from organization to organization, there are 8 essential steps or elements that commonly define the process of acquiring talent. Let's take a look at the best practices of employee selection. Step 1. Job posting. A job posting is simply creating and distributing a notice of a current job opportunity. This allows for you to apply recruitment methods. If you're trying to hire top-tier talent, you need to put your best foot forward. The first impression prospective candidates often have is your job posting, and if it's dull, drab, or generic, that's likely the kind of candidates you'll attract. When writing your job posting, include these 5 critical parts. The headline. Ask yourself, why is this a great place to work? The narrative. Ask yourself, what is the position and why does it matter? The requirements. Ask yourself, what are the required skills, experience, and education a viable candidate must have? The benefits. Ask yourself, how will you attract the best candidates? And finally, the invitation. Ask yourself, how can they contact you and apply? For more information on this model, see Greg's How to Create a Job Posting on the Greg Learning YouTube channel. On to Step 2, Recruitment. Recruiting is the process of generating a pool of qualified candidates for a job. The recruitment process includes analyzing job requirements and attracting employees to that job. Recruitment takes place when an organization tries to reach a pool of candidates through a myriad of traditional and innovative methods. Step 3. Application Review. Once the position has been posted, candidates will apply. Candidates will complete an application for each position, and resumes and cover letters are optional in this process. All applicants must be reviewed and considered for that particular position. As the term sounds, application review is the process of reviewing job application forms, resumes, and various other forms of applicant materials. Then we move into Step 4, the commonly known interview. A job interview is a selection test that involves a conversation between a job applicant and the employer. Interviews are one of the most popularly used devices in employee selection. Normally done in face-to-face meetings, an interview involves asking a job applicant questions to determine whether the applicant is suitable for the position of employment. Interviews vary in the extent in which they're structured, from totally unstructured and freewheeling conversations to a very structured list of questions the applicant is asked. I believe your interview needs to be planned. Patterned interviews are planned and structured to ensure consistency among candidate experience and interview results. The following is a recommended type of patterned interview, of which there are many. Best practice suggests that an interview should be structured or patterned. This patterned interview includes an opening and overview. To begin the interview, put the applicant at ease with appropriate small talk, introductions, and general organization and job-related information. Next, experience questions. Ask the candidate education and experience questions to confirm the applicant's education and experience and ease the individual into the interview conversation. Next, self-evaluation questions. Have the applicant self-evaluate or self-reflect on their knowledge, ability, and skill levels. Then, the most important component, behaviorally based questions. Ask behavioral or competency-based questions that focus on relating past job performance to probable future on-the-job behavior. And then finally, candidate questions in closing. Give a realistic job preview and let the applicant interview you with their questions. Step 5. Selection tests. In the simplest terms, selection tests are defined as procedures for determining job suitability. This is accomplished by examining the knowledge, skills, and abilities or competencies of applicants. Selection tests must be job relevant. In other words, the test measures one or more characteristics that are important to the job. Employers typically use selection tests to accomplish two primary objectives: eliciting an applicant's undesirable traits and identifying the characteristics that most closely match the qualities required for the job. Selection tests must be both reliable and valid. Reliability refers to how dependable or consistent a test measures a characteristic. If a person takes a test again, will he or she get a similar test score or a much different score? A test that yields similar scores for a person who repeats the test is said to have reliability. Really, we're asking ourselves the question, are the results dependable? Think of reliability like a dependable or reliable automobile. Validity is the extent to which a selection method measures what it's supposed to measure and how well it does so. An accounting test should measure accounting knowledge and skills. Simply stated, we are investigating the job relatedness of the selection measured. So a question we ask ourselves here is, are we measuring what we intend to measure? Moving on to step 6, reference checks. Reference checks are uniquely the part of a selection process that involves people other than the candidate. Since past performance is often the best indicator of future on-the-job behavior, references allow you to talk to others to determine if the applicant is suited for the role. The primary purpose of a reference check is to, first, verify information provided by the applicant throughout the selection process, second, establish job suitability, and third, gain greater insights into individual candidates' skills, knowledge, and abilities, what we call competencies, from someone who's actually observed the candidate. Some employers mistakenly believe that it's unlawful to ask for references. That's simply not true. Others fear that reference checking is a waste of time because former employers won't reveal a candidate's weaknesses or speak openly about an individual's performance. To avoid these pitfalls, employers should implement a clear policy, clearly communicate with everyone involved in reference checking, and standardize job-related reference check practices both on the giving and the receiving end. This brings us to step 7, the conditional offer. As you know, candidate communication is critical, so at this point in time in the selection process, a written conditional offer is a great practice. This written offer would follow up a verbal offer, which would set expectations for the new employee and clarify any matters that were discussed through the selection process. I suggest that you use a template to standardize and ensure consistency of your organization's communication in the conditional offer process. The template should include basic demographic information, including the following: the position title, the FLSA exemption status, exempt or non-exempt, the start date, full or part-time FTE status, rate of pay, and reporting relationships. This conditional offer provides the opportunity to conduct job-related and necessary background check procedures to close out our selection process. And that's what leads us to step 8, background checks. Background checks explore the aspects of an individual's background. Content of these checks should relate to specific job requirements. Use an outside and reputable vendor to conduct your background checks. Employers implementing the use of backgrounds must comply with federal laws under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, as well as their state laws on background checks. The Fair Credit Reporting Act requires that employers using consumer reports, in this case background checks, for employment purposes must obtain written consent and provide applicants with written disclosure through the decision-making process. So, when considering the administration of background checks, you should first apply the same standards to everybody. Second, take special care when basing employment decisions on background issues that may be more common among people of certain protected classes. And third, be prepared to make exceptions for problems related or identified during the background that were caused by a disability or other protected class issue. Now that you understand these 8 steps of a typical selection process, go create a customized process that works for your organization in selecting and hiring the best possible talent.